You're watching Capital City Sunday.
Joining us on the show again this week is Scott Bauer from the Associated Press. First off, Scott, thanks for the time as always.
You bet.
Well, they say the pen is mightier than the sword. That might be true here in Wisconsin with what the governor can do with just one striking of the pen here. Let's talk about some of these vetoes. Some pretty big changes here from the governor, especially with tax cuts. I think most people expected him to strike out that top income tax bracket, but was it a shock that he struck out that second income tax break?
Yeah, it was a surprise. As you said, everyone expected that really high tier to be struck down. Even the legislature had written the language a little bit differently, kind of signaling that that would be an easy target, or at least one they expected to be struck down. But the governor went a step farther and went all the way down, well below what, deeper than I think anyone really expected, leaving just, I think, around $36,000 worth of income for a household will be subject to this tax cut. So everyone who earns that amount or more will have that portion of it be reduced, but it would have been much, much more. The Republican plan was roughly $3.5 billion, and what the governor left intact is about $175 million.
That leaves billions, obviously, and money left on the table. Is this money that we're going to see them haggling over here for the next couple of years now?
Oh, yeah. They'll always be haggling over something, and there's a lot yet undone, even with this budget. One of the bigger things is Miller Park. Well, American Family Field, as we all know, is Miller Park. What they're going to do there is not included in the budget. Republicans say they're going to come back with yet another tax cut bill as a separate legislation to see what the governor does with that. So there's a lot yet to come here, but he definitely gutted that Republican tax cut.
The other thing that was very interesting to a lot of people is that we now have a 400-year increase in funding per pupil for obviously K through 12 education. Talk about just kind of the power that they have there, the governors, where they can strike items in there. This seemed to really kind of sideswipe some Republicans as well, right?
Yeah, it caught a lot of people by surprise. The 400-year thing is, what he needed to do within the power of the veto to effectively make it last until someone undoes it. So think of the 400-year really as just a mechanism to make the increase permanent in per pupil spending, the lid for per pupil spending for schools. So it gives schools the ability to spend more, and they get that money through property taxes and state aid. So if state aid doesn't keep up with what they want to spend, then they're going to go to property taxes, and that's given Republicans an avenue to criticize the veto, saying it's a 400-year property tax increase. The 400-year thing is catchy and it gets people's attention, but really it's just a way for the governor with his veto power to ensure that that increase continues on beyond this budget until a future governor or future legislature together do away with it.
Robin Vos called it unprecedented, but is it really? I mean,
No.
We've seen some interesting things with this veto power.
Yeah, it's not unprecedented. I mean, Governor Walker, when he was governor with the Republican legislature, he used the line item veto power to extend a program for 1,000 years. And previous governors, before constitutional amendments were enacted to kind of restrain that power, did amazingly creative things. Tommy Thompson struck hundreds of pages of a budget to create 4-lane US 151 up to Fond du Lac. So, I mean, there's a long history of governors using that veto power. And if you talk to former governors, they'll tell you that they used it. They took advantage of it, just like Evers did.
The other thing that was interesting was with the governor, he was saying he saved the DEI jobs at UW system because the funding cut, which was $32 million, was tied directly to those DEI positions. The positions may be saved, but the money's still gone for now, isn't it?
The money's gone for now. The UW can come back to the legislature and make a case to get that $32 million. Lawmakers told them it has to be for workforce development efforts, not for DEI. Robin Vos is being even more forceful about that, saying he doesn't want to release that money until they show that they've eliminated these DEI programs and whatnot. So that is an ongoing fight that we are yet to see fully play out. But for now, UW is definitely one of the biggest losers in the budget that saw $1 billion more dollars for schools, $1 billion, more dollars for local governments, $175 million in tax cuts, and a cut to the university system. So that's a big one.
Speaker Vos vowed to fight this, but at this point, not really a chance for them to override this because they would need some Democratic support, right?
Right. The Assembly would need some Democrats to vote with them, which are not going to get. The Senate, of course, does have a 2/3 Republican majority. But this is one of the reasons why the governor's veto is so powerful in Wisconsin, especially under divided government, because unless they've got that 2/3 majority, the other party, they can't override the governor's veto. So that goes back to why Democrats were fighting so hard to not lose enough seats to have Republicans have a 2/3 majority. Republicans fell just short in the Assembly, a couple seats. If they had gotten those, then we'd be talking a completely different topic right now.
So this budget is over. The debate, clearly not ever. Thank you, Scott Bauer, for the time once again.
You bet.